Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. And the previous video, which was taking everything off of a stack of shelves and having a look at it, this one, along with another one, was picked out as being a problem. Now I'm hoping I've got to this in time. You have to bear in mind, taking much notice of me when I'm dealing with Miltoniopsis may not be the best of ideas. I've lost 3 of my species this season. They will be virtually impossible to get again, I suspect. And I was pleased that I had 3 of the 5 species. Well, now I've got 1 that may survive, but I doubt it. This is a hybrid, no ID, but it's going downhill. It's still growing, but it's not growing as well as it should. And it smells of mushrooms, and it's very, very wet. Now the cooler, shadier set were watered relatively recently, so I'd expect this to be at least damp, but it's not damp, it's wet. And it's not drying out, and what I suspect is happening, difficult to prove one way or the other, but this is virtually all cocoa husk, and I will do a pop-up with the date when this was repotted, and I suspect that's what's wrong. I suspect that this cocoa husk has gone off and is now quite acidic, and with a Miltoniopsis that is fatal. Now, I'm not sure how many plants we've got here, but it's definitely more than 1. That was a worry. That's a rotten pseudo bulb, so that can come off. It's not soggy, but you know, it's gone. And this is what the worry is. All these bracts are rotten, and it's where they're staying wet. And when you've got that amount of wet around the base of the pseudo bulbs, you're just going to get rot. And even if that pseudo bulb doesn't rot, the chances are any new growths that come out will. So it's a dangerous situation to be in, especially with Miltoniopsis. So I'm hoping we're in time. See, that's a separate piece. That's a single bulb. Well, all I'm going to do is just pop these bits back into. Yeah, that bulb's rotten as well. We'll have that one off. So that leaves a 2-piece bulb. Now I've successfully recovered Miltoniopsis with worse root systems than this. They do still have roots. These are not active roots, and quite a few of them are gone. So we will just do a quick trim. Just these stringy bits basically. If you put them back in the pot, they'll only rot. So we'll just have a quick tidy up, not dramatic. See this, you've got to go careful when you're doing roots like this. Look, the side shoots on that root have gone and left stringy bits, but the root itself is actually okay, the rest of it. So if I'd been a little bit heavy-handed with the scissors there, that root would have come off. And in fact, there's nothing wrong with it. So you need to go careful. Don't go mad. Roots on Miltoniopsis are precious. Right, so there's a piece there. All these sheaths around the base have got to come off. They're holding water. Now this is just going to go in bark. No moss, no nothing. And a lot of this is to do with my current environment. Okay, this is a single bulb. Yes, this is the sort of thing that can fool you. Yes, it's a single bulb, but the bulb has gone on the inside. So that piece has had it, and that piece has. Right, what have we got left here? This is a piece, and this has got a new growth on. So we like this piece. Yes, and it's intact, it's a single piece. So this is reasonable. Bracts off, everything that can stay wet, that cannot grow, and a bract cannot grow. so they need to come off. That gets rid of the ability to hold moisture around the base. Now this little new growth has got new roots growing on it, so I'm pretty certain this bit will make it, but we will get rid of as much of the old media as possible. It doesn't matter if you don't get every single piece. If it hangs onto a root too hard and you pull, you'll damage that root. And whereas, okay, you might have had a bit of old media stuck to it, but you know, if you pull it off, you haven't got a root anyway, so go steady. I'm not even worried about trimming every single root. I just want to tidy it, and that will do. So that's a good piece. So how are we doing here then? That was a good piece. That's a good piece. This is what's left. Another rotten pseudo bulb. Look at the dampness around it. And the one next to it's gone. That leaves this with yet another new growth. I've seen what happens with these bracts staying wet too long. They go a yellowy browny colour that just looks like they're discoloured, but what's happening inside is it's rotting away at the bulb. So one thing I'm very surprised at, there's no scale on this whatsoever. Anyway, I'm hoping I've got this in time. And this again it's a bit of laziness on my part, because I'm watering these at the moment about every 11 or 12 days. And last time I watered this one was a couple of days ago, but prior to that, when I watered it, it was still wet from the previous time. And this is the difference in this environment without the heat. Without that sunshine coming round and getting on the glass at any time at all, this time of year, the heat's not there. Now, although these are cool growers, I have to adjust my media to suit my new temperatures. And my new temperatures are a lot lower. And because they're a lot lower, pots are staying wet longer, that were potted up with a media designed to hold moisture, because at the other place it was warm. Now it's not. So we need to switch back to a media that doesn't hold moisture anywhere near as long, and that can dry out a lot quicker in between waterings. So that's what we're after. Hello, fluffy cat. It's funny, the cats, you know, as they're getting old, and they are getting old, the amount of time they spend up on the bed asleep now. They come down in the morning with me and have their breakfast. Mojo always goes outside for 20 minutes, half an hour. He likes to go outside. He comes back in and has his second breakfast, what he didn't finish the first time. And then he sits with me on the computer table for quite a while. And then he has a drink and a bit more breakfast, perhaps some of his biscuits, and then he wanders off to the bed and settles down. Sometimes he doesn't come down till tea time. So he's up there like 6, 7 hours, sometimes 8, without coming down. Now that's a long time to not see your cat, really. Now it was good, because he keeps changing his favourite place. He changes it frequently. And his favourite place used to be where he would go to sleep, on the corner of a settee. So although he was asleep, he was still in the room with me, whereas now he's upstairs on the bed, I don't see him. But when he does come down like tea time, he spends the rest of the evening sat on my lap, which can be a bit of a problem. Right, so we've got some pieces to pot up, smallest pot possible that they'll go in. They are all going to go in one pot, and we'll have a tidy up and I'll be back. Right, so we've got a much smaller pot and some pieces. They're all going to go in. I mean, this piece has no signs of new growth. Yeah, I'm not happy with that solid bit of rhizome on there either. I'm going to cut that off. Jolly good. So that's that piece. And then that's another piece that's got a new growth that has put out some roots, but they don't look very successful. That could be the media. And then again, a piece with a new growth that does have some new roots that haven't failed yet. So we'll see what happens. So these are going in bark. They're going in the smaller bark, but they're not getting any moss, no additives, nothing, just bark. And they will need watering for at least 2 or 3 weeks, probably every other day or at least every third day, because they're going in new bark. And new bark, this new bark dries. Well, it's not so much it dries incredibly quickly, it doesn't get wet in the first place. So it hasn't got a chance to dry. Right, let's make sure the base of all of these is at the same level. So just a tatty bit of rhizome where I pulled one of those bulbs off. So we'll just tidy that up. There we go, like that. And then this one with its new growth can go there. So are all our bases at the same height? Yes. That's important, because otherwise what I don't want is these sunk down. I want these sitting on the media, not in it. I'm off to Burnham's in just over 2 weeks. It's the 20th, I think it is, a Sunday. So that will be a Sunday when there won't be a Sunday chat, obviously. And I'm sure I will come back with an orchid or two. We shall see, and film of the nursery and the orchid show itself, the Orchid Society displays. There's 3 societies there. Unfortunately, due to a set of previous circumstances, one of the displays won't get filmed. They can miss out. But the others will, the other 2 will. Plus we'll have a good look around the nursery, obviously, as I usually do while I'm there. I'm pushing this down reasonably firm because I don't want the plants to wobble. The new roots on these are very fragile, and obviously if I pick the plant up to water it and it wobbles, the little tips could break off. So by making it reasonably firm at this stage, we should be okay. Now there's a little new growth there that's managed to get buried, so we will tweak the bark away from it. So where's the other new growth? No, he's fine. In fact, he needs a top up. There we go. Right, so we'll see what happens. But that will now go out for a good soak because that is bone dry. Now, although those roots are wet, they've just come out of a very soggy media, and the roots themselves are wet. You could take the decision not to water yet until those roots have dried off a bit. In that dry bark, drying off a bit could only take a couple of hours, and they will then start to desiccate. So I need some moisture in there. So there we go, a relatively quick repot of a Miltoniopsis. And now I won't film it because most people are not interested in looking at my computer screen. But for the rest of the afternoon, as I haven't got anything else to do, I'm going to go through my notes and find a combination. What I'm looking for is stuff that was potted that was heavy on that cocoa husk, cocoa chunks, whatever you want to call them. So heavy on that and combined with the repotting date. So heavy on the cocoa husk and an old repotting date gets a red priority. Yeah? Heavy on the cocoa husk that's only been there a year or so, that can get an orange priority and will probably wait till the spring. But we've got stuff in that cocoa husk, I reckon, that's 2 years, possibly 2 years plus. They need doing, or they'll end up like this, a failure. So there we go, Miltoniopsis repot. Quite honestly, that's no different to a Miltonia, to an Oncidium, to an Odontoglossum. The principle is exactly the same. But what you do need to bear in mind is your temperatures, your light levels, and that determines what you're going to put it in. Yeah? In my old place, I needed to retain moisture because even in the winter, if the sun got on the glass, I had heat. So in the other place, I was constantly trying to keep things cooler and keep them hydrated to put up with that heat. With that heat gone, things are staying wet too long. I need to deal with that. I need to change my concept of how I feel and how I think about moisture retention in pots. And quite honestly, at the moment, I'd rather have things drying out. With these lower temperatures, I'd rather have things drying out than staying wet. So that's where we'll go from there. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Oh, if you're not subscribed, nice if you did so. Don't forget the old thumbs up. Bye for now.